things before we get started. Tonight is the Carolina Call Show with Todd Ellis. It's on Tuesday this week because of Thanksgiving. So if you want to know how Coach is doing, you can listen in tonight. I'm sure spoiler alert, I'm sure he's doing fine. But
I'd love to have all of you there. It'd be a hell of a time.
okay. Also,
I'm sure your employers would want you to come and buy some wings. It'd be a good deal.
Also tomorrow there is no SEC conference call. Pull the plug because of Thanksgiving as well. So, with that,
Having a hell of a week so far, guys. So it's he gave me that good news yesterday. I don't get to talk to the boys in Birmingham. Clemson week kickoff here at noon. Williams-Brice Stadium. Obviously honored to be a part of one of the great rivalries in college football. Very important to our state and important to the University of South Carolina. And we had a good practice this morning. Guys bouncing around. They feel that vibe during this week, and we're looking forward to it. Got a good football team led on offense by Trevor Lawrence. He's completing right at 70% of his passes. You know, a guy that can obviously hurt you with his legs. He's a really good athlete. They use some of the zone read and some of the designed quarterback runs, but elite arm talent, can make all the throws. Just really impressed watching him, and a really competitive guy. When you turn the tape on, at running back, Travis Etienne is an outstanding player, a guy that's got really good vision and sees a hole and hits things north and south, and has been very explosive for them also as a receiver. But in the run game, and Lynn J. Dixon's done a nice job for him from Georgia. Big, very big, long, athletic group at wideout. T. Higgins and Overton and Ross, Frank Ladson and Nagata are all 6'3", 6'4", 200-plus guys that do a great job of attacking the ball down the field. Amari Rogers is not as big, but is a stature-wise a muscle guy in the slot and does a nice job for them. But they've got a talented bunch outside, and offensive line's athletic and talented, and Robbie does a great job with those guys. Trey Ankrum, the right tackle, is very athletic, the left side of their line. John Simpson and Jackson Carmen have done a really nice job for them offensively. Defensively, really as you start to watch the tape, I think your eyes kind of drift to the back end. Obviously with DK and A.J. Terrell, two really talented corners that can cover man-to-man, have good instincts in zone, have made a lot of plays for them this year. The safety position, and Brent's done a good job of, commingling those guys in some different areas. Tanner Muse, is obviously Nick's brother's been there. A guy's logged a lot of time. He and Kevion Wallace are two guys that have made a lot of plays for those guys, played a lot of football. And then Denzel Washington and Nolan Turner are two guys as well that have played a lot of football for them, and they put them in some different packages to get those guys all on the field at the same time. But the one guy that stands out is Isaiah Simmons, 6'4", 230, plays anywhere from defensive end to linebacker, deep safety, is a good blitzer. He's got really good instincts off the ball, can play man-to-man, but he is a vast skill set and a long-rangey guy that gets his hand on a lot of balls. And he's a ball hawk type of guy, but a really good football player. And then they rotate and play a lot of guys up front, and they obviously losing the front they had last year, and they've done a nice job there. Injury-wise, going in the game, Brian Edwards is questionable. He did a little bit today. He had a scope last week, so we'll see how he continues to progress. Obviously, he's a guy that's not going to need a lot of snaps, and that such, but we'll see how that continues to progress. Kobe Smith still got a little bit of an ankle from the A&M game. Didn't do a lot today. We're going to see what he can do tomorrow. And other than that, we should be good to go for the game, and I'll open up for any questions.
Will Howard, Feaster, Denson, or Trey, some of the guys that missed A&M?
All practice today. All good to go.
Well, what does this rivalry mean to you? And if you were to describe this rivalry to someone who's not from South Carolina, how would you describe it?
Very similar to Auburn, Alabama. In that state, there's no pro teams. You're either South Carolina or Clemson in this state for the most part, and very similar to that state, and it means a lot.
I think you mentioned on your call-in show last week you were toying with maybe a new offensive line group out there. Have you settled on the starting five that you're going to put out there this week?
Colin, not as right at this time, but Ja'Kai Moore is a guy that we've been really impressed with at right tackle, and moving Dylan to left tackle, and then Sedarius to left guard. But still, having Jordan Rhodes at left guard, Sedarius at left tackle, and Dylan at right tackle as well. So we'll go with one of those groups and probably play both of those combinations in the game. Mm-hmm.
Gene in the front.
Well, this is by far Clemson's greatest stretch of football in their history. What's it like to have to be the head coach of the rival when your tenure exactly coincides with that?
You know, I worry and spend a lot of time on South Carolina, Gene, and at the end of the day, I can't control, and I always talk to our players about control the things you can control. And as far as recruiting, as far as developing players on campus, coaching, those things I can control here, and I can't control the other. Obviously, we need to do a better job as coaches and players in this game than we have in the previous three, and find a way to win the game.
What about just the outside noise for you, your family, the seniors on this team that they've had to deal with this the last 4 years or so?
Well, again, I mean that's part of what a rivalry game's involved, and it's generally the geographically close people to you that you've got to deal with 365 days out of the year, and it's something you obviously hear. It's nothing that you like or want to become accustomed to. You got to continue to coach through it and play through it and recruit through it and develop through it and continue to work through it. And you can't let it get frustrated, and you've got to just continue to work through the situations to create the best situation you can for your football team. And that's what we've been trying to do.
Well, to that end, how nice was it to hear from Robert Castleton and when he put out that statement that you were going to be coming back next year and for years to come?
Well, I appreciate it and didn't think anything else.
Sorry, one more question. What do you think this bye week can do for this team? How did it help this team?
Well, I think obviously we had some guys banged up that would miss some time to get Feaster back, to get Mon Denson back, to get AJ Turner back, to get Ortre Smith back. To get all those guys back certainly helps us offensively. To get healthy, I think to have an extra time to practice. We spend a little more time since it's so late in the season and we don't have opponents after Clemson. To be able to spend a little bit more time on them, time invested as a staff on them to game plan.
Will, I'm sure we've asked you this question in the past every year, but what was your earliest memory of this rivalry when you came here 4 years ago?
Like when I was growing up?
Well, no, I'm saying when you came here 4 years ago, whether it's boosters, whether it's just fans.
Day one, beat Clemson. And I heard it from everybody. Yeah.
Coach, how much of what percentage of your practice time do you spend good on good, first team against first team?
Well, we always have some sort of team first and 10 team run period. Where we do good on good. We always do 7-on-7. We always do 1-on-1. We do a 6-on-4 period with our 5 offensive linemen and tight end because that's primarily one of our best or one of our primary run sets that we run from. And we'll do that against the 4-down defensive lineman. I think that's great in the development for a defensive lineman from a standpoint of there's no linebackers, so the offensive line stays on double teams longer. It teaches defensive linemen to stay in the double team longer, which is one of the most difficult things to do as far as taking on a 700-pound double team. We do that, and we always end with some sort of move the ball team period. Today would be move the ball, but tomorrow will be a 1 minute. We'll always have a third down period tomorrow. So different types of installation, things that we need to work on. But we're going to have 4 or 5 periods of good on good as opposed to maybe 3 periods of scouts. I just believe the fastball works better. Most of the offenses and defenses we face nowadays are very similar. There's a lot of carryover. Week to week that you're able to see. In some situations, if we are facing someone schematically that's very different from what we do, then we'll do what I call crossover, and that's going to mean the first team offense goes against the second team defense. And if there's a certain look that they need in those periods, we'll make sure that they get those looks. Or defensively, if the offense is an option offense or just kind of going back, we'll try and get some. Get the second team offense to simulate those looks so you get better fastball looks. Hmm? Yeah.
Did that change from the beginning of your coaching career to now? Like how much?
No, that's something when I was with Coach Saban, that's the way we practiced.
What's the biggest difference between Ryan Holinsky now and Ryan Holinsky 2 months ago?
Well, I think he's incrementally made improvements each week. I think from whether it's preparation, whether it's decision making, game management. There might have been 2 months ago, Dan might be explaining to him This is what instead now he's coming to the sideline and saying, I saw the safety. He understands those things, and that just takes time. And what he's doing is very difficult. He's playing the hardest position on the field as a true freshman. We need to do a better job around him, helping him. But I've been very proud of Ryan and how he's handled it, because he's handling a lot.
When the season is over, what will his program look like? What will you tell him you want him to do from then till next August?
I think the number one thing, and he and I have talked, is the game slows down for you. And I think as much as anything, to be able to go back and rehash all the decision-making in the run game, getting us to the right run, in the pass game, taking it to the right progression, all of those things are, again, the game's going to continue to slow down, and that's a huge part of the all-season program. The mental side of it, obviously the physical side of it, of getting stronger, getting your body more ready for a run through the SEC, which is tough.
Couple of questions for you. During this open week, did you have a chance to sit down with Jake Bentley and talk about any future plans with him?
No, we won't do it after the Clemson game.
Secondly, how much of you guys offensively looked back at last year's tape against Clemson, where you did some things out of the ordinary on offense? And since you've had 2 weeks to get ready, is it safe to assume we'll see some different things, or do you think what you're doing now will be good enough to be successful?
Well, obviously, in our last two performances, we haven't done enough to be successful. So there'll be obviously some changes. I think from a personnel standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, when you have a little extra time, you are able to look at some different things. And, Phil, I think you always go back and watch that tape, not necessarily from what you did, but how you were defensed. You're always going back to see a coordinator and how he's done things against you before, because obviously if he took it into a game plan before, he thought it might be a good idea. So I think those are things that you always go back and study your opponent, not necessarily of what you've done, but maybe what you've seen, because that's what you're trying to prepare our players for. Is what are you going to see on game day? And then how are we going to block these runs, and how are we going to protect here, and route concepts and such.
Curious, well, you always talk about just evaluating everything after a season. I'm just curious what goes into that evaluation process, and how long does that usually take for a head coach to go through and do that? I
guess everybody's different, but you're constantly evaluating. I may not say what I think as far as those things are concerned, because I don't think there's a right and a wrong time to express those thoughts. But you're constantly evaluating where you are and what you've got to do to continue to improve. Right now, we're focused on Clemson, and that's where our focus is.
Brian, and kind of trying to work his way back from the knee. Is he pushing for playing, pushing to be able to play, and what is that conversation like in terms of potentially that knee not being 100%,
Sure.
that kind of stuff?
I told him in 1988, Rodney Hampton had arthroscopic surgery on a Sunday night, and he played on Saturday. Been done before. You remember that, Josh?
I don't. I remember Rodney Hampton, but I don't remember his knee history.
Yeah. Ole Miss game, I believe it was on a Saturday. Scoped Sunday night, played at Auburn on Saturday. Just a little trivia there for you. Yeah.
Considering the games that haven't gone your way this year, how much does it help having the Georgia game as an example of if you play your best, it's good enough against elite competition?
Well, I think it's a combination of coaching well too. It's not all on the players. We got to do a good job of getting our guys ready to play. Coaching our guys. There ain't nobody around here trying to make excuses. We need to do a better job on our end, starting with me. So that's a good example of when we do coach and prepare the right way and go and execute against a really good football team, then good things can happen.
Well, kind of a two-parter here. Pre-game speeches. You've heard a lot of them. You've given a lot of them. What goes into your preparation for that, or is it just spur of the moment, off the cuff?
Spur of the moment. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer, and then we're going to say, let's go. And believe me, after that first time you get hit in the mouth, that pregame speech is out the window. I can tell you that right now. It's about your preparation Sunday through Friday to get you ready for Saturday. And nothing I'm going to say in pregame, especially this week, if I got to say something to get you excited in pregame, then something's wrong with you.
And as an assistant, anytime you've been around, have you ever seen any kind of, really out-to-lunch pregame speeches? I mean, you heard of the story about Irk Russell and the rattlesnake, I'm sure. But anything like that ever go on during your career?
No. If I pulled a rattlesnake out, we would have a problem.
Now, with that injury lingering for Brian, has he approached you at all in terms of just his NFL future, and has any other player addressed you about that?
No, not at this time. I tell our guys all the time. It's kind of a common theme. When we'll discuss postseason things when the postseason happens, and we'll move forward after the regular season and talk in terms of those discussions.
So when a player does come up to you, whether it's a bowl game, whether it's the last game of the season, how do you usually go about that?
As far as?
In terms of if they're talking about, Coach, I'd rather sit a game out in order to preserve my
Brian's
body.
not going to sit the game out.
No, I'm not saying with him. I'm saying when a player does come to you with those conversations.
Well, I've only had one in my career, and that was Debo, and he and I had a very healthy conversation. That's what his plans were, and it's worked out well for him.
Coach, of course, each week the focus is on that opponent, but obviously Clemson is a different type of opponent. Do you guys spend time each week, focusing on them, practicing for them, or is it kind of just as the week comes up, or is it kind of something that's a season-long preparation for this team?
No, we spend a lot of time on our perennial opponents that we play each year. We spend time in the off season. We spend time in the summer. We spend time in training camp as far as preparation of things that we know we're going to carry into the game in all three phases. So, yeah, we prepare for Clemson, Georgia. I mean, a lot of those teams throughout the entire season. In the off season, different things we're looking at as a staff. We might not introduce it to our players. We might introduce new concepts maybe in spring ball to introduce something a little, that might be a little different that we need to look at, that we think we might carry into a game like Clemson. So, yeah, it's a year-round preparation. And then obviously we've got those notes ready for game week as we pull those notes out and we start going through the things we felt like comfortable with going in the game and what's going to help us win.
Well, at any time during the week, are you going to talk to your guys about if they win on Saturday, what that could do about changing the perception of the 2019 Gamecock team?
I don't know that that's what we're necessarily after. I think we're after the fact this is a great rivalry and we need to win the game. As far as how it affects our season, I'm not that's not something I'm going to focus on with our team. I'm going to focus on the fact that this is a great rivalry and we need to do a better job and we need to win the game.
What about your team gives you the most hope that you can win this game?
Well, I think, earlier I was asked about the Georgia game. Obviously we've been inconsistent in all three areas, in offense, defense, and special teams, and we need to form some sort of consistency. Obviously, the formula for us is being able to run the football, being able to create some shots down the field, be opportunistic defensively. We haven't stopped the run versus these guys in 3 years. We've got to stay away from explosive plays. When we have opportunities on third down, we got to get off the field, create some field position on special teams. As far as in the return game and doing a good job with our coverage units because they got some really good skill guys returning kickoffs and returning punts in those situations. But that's with our football team. That's who we are right now.
Well, when you look at your tenure here over the last 3 years, when you look at the Carolina-Clemson games, what has been the biggest difference you think between the two schools on that Saturday when they face off?
Well, I felt like skill-wise, the first couple of years we had a hard time matching up on the perimeter on both sides. And then, last year they won the line of scrimmage. We had a hard time running the ball. I think we ended up with 90 or something yards rushing. I think we hit a late run. And we couldn't stop the run. And I think that as much as anything is where, we've made some improvements this year with our football team.
We all know your opinions on Thanksgiving being a meal, not a day. But is there a favorite Thanksgiving food for you that you like to eat? And is it stuffing or dressing? Javon said stuffing, and then Sedaria said dressing.
Dressing with gravy, and then turkey, warm turkey. And I'm good with I don't like fried. And I'm good with white or dark meat. Either way, I'm good. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving.